Hello everyone. We are still reading Master of Self-Realization by Shri, Sadguru, Siddharameshwar Maharaj. And we're starting on page 24 where we left off, chapter 2, page 24. From the analysis of the physical body, we have learned that the I is separate from all of its qualities. Additionally, we can easily see that someone else's beautiful, cute, bonny baby is of no value to us. Compared to our own dark, stocky boy who has pockmarks and a flowing, dirty nose, we do not suffer if someone else's sweet child dies as much as we suffer if our worn old shoes get lost. The reason for this is that we do not have the same sense of possession or mine for the other person. Once one understands that some particular thing is not mine and that it belongs to someone else, he becomes indifferent about that thing. He even gradually starts disliking that thing which belongs to someone else or another, and then it is easily renounced. Understand clearly that the body is not mine. It belongs to the 5 elements, and that is someone else's property. When you understand this, whatever kind of properties the body may possess, how does it affect you? So, let us leave the physical body and let us proceed ahead. However, to leave the body does not mean that it should be pushed into a well or be hung with a noose around the neck. We leave it by understanding it and by gaining the factual knowledge about it. When the body is known for what it really is, the obsessive interest in it subsides. We can step beyond it, and it is automatically renounced. If the body is purposefully destroyed physically, then one definitely gets reborn again and again. Complete renunciation of the body is achieved only through discrimination of the real from the unreal. By using discrimination while one has the human body, one naturally arrives at the state of renunciation, and instead the body, becoming a reason for rebirth, it has the capacity to liberate one from the cycle of birth and death altogether. Out of these 5 types of dissolution, everyone is familiar with the 2 types of dissolution associated with the body, or daily dissolution, which are deep sleep and the dissolution of death. In deep sleep, the whole world, including our body, is dissolved. However, upon awakening, the body and the world are present just as they were before going to sleep. And all actions start again, just as they did before. The dissolution through death is the same as the dissolution through deep sleep. However, after death, in the absence of self-knowledge, the being has to take a new body in accordance with one's actions, karma, and mental disposition. In the new body, the actions such as eating, sleeping, mating, and fear happen according to the impressions remaining from previous lives. Above the bodily level, at the universal level, there are 2 other cosmic types of dissolution. The first is the dissolution at the end of life of the Creator and His creation, Brahma, Pralaya. The second is the dissolution that takes place at the end of an age or kalpa, after many such creators and their creations have come and gone, kalpa, Pralaya. With these 2 types of dissolution, a new, quote, creator, or a new, quote, kalpa starts, and creation, which was latent for some time, rises with renewed vigor and activity, and starts all over again. In this way, the wheel continues to revolve, rising and setting at fixed periods. One can see from the descriptions given so far of these 4 types of dissolutions, the bodies cannot be dissolved finally in all of them. However, the result of the dissolution by discrimination or thought is very powerful and unique. In this type of dissolution, the body not only is dissolved while living, but also after death. And when it gets finally dissolved, it will not rise again. Suppose there is a toy snake laying around that is made out of rubber. It is only until such time that one understands that it is only made of rubber that the fear of the snake will completely disappear. Otherwise, by closing one's eyes or putting the snake away in a basket, the fear subsides. However, in that case, as soon as the eyes open or the basket is opened again, the fear returns. Suppose someone throws the rubber snake away and some mischievous person again throws it in front of the fearful one. He will again be shaken. In order to escape the snake, the man goes into deep sleep. However, he will see the snake again as soon as he wakes up. Suppose he gets intoxicated with drink or is made unconscious by chloroform in order to make the snake go away. Again, as soon as the effect of the drink or anesthesia wears off, the snake is there once again. This shows that the eradication of the fear of the snake by any of the means described is only temporary and not lasting. How is it then that he can be freed from the fear of the snake? The only remedy to be rid of this fear of the snake is to know for certain that it is only made of rubber. Once this knowledge dawns, then even if his eyes see the snake, or if somebody wants to frighten him with it, there is no cause for fear. In the same way, when one knows correctly as to exactly what this body is, the pride for it and the sense of mine about it vanishes, and it is automatically renounced. This is what is called the dissolution by thought. One who dies with the certainty of thought is free from the cycle of birth and deaths. However, it should be taken for granted that one who dies thoughtlessly dies only in order to be reborn. By virtue of the dissolution by thought, the thing is seen as if it were immaterial, whether it is or is not there. With the other types of dissolution, even if the thing is hidden from sight, it is just as if it still exists. Samartha Ramdas therefore asserts that it is only thoughtfulness, vichara, that makes a human being complete and brings one to fulfillment in this life. After thorough investigation, the quote I could not be found when the physical body was dissected with the procedure of dissolution by thought. The second body, the subtle body. Now we will use the same process of dissolution by thought in trying to trace the I in the subtle body. Let us investigate and see if this thief called I can be found anywhere in the subtle body. First, let us find out what the subtle body is. The subtle body is comprised of a committee of 17 members. These are, number 1, the 5 senses of action, hands, feet, mouth, genitals, and anus. Number 2, the 5 senses of knowledge, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Number 3, the 5 pranas, or vital breaths, Vyana, Vayu, which supplies liquid food materials throughout the body, Samana Vayu, which is found in the navel, Udana Vayu, which is found in the throat, Apana Vayu, which is found in the bowels, and Prana Vayu, which is what we breathe in and out. Number 4, the mind, manas, and number 5, the intellect, buddhi. Whatever orders that this committee of subtle body puts forth are carried out by the gross body. The subtle body's field of authority is very vast. So, in conducting a thorough investigation, it may be possible to find that elusive I here because he has a strong passion for asserting authority. When we begin our investigation of the subtle body, we find that the I puts his stamp of mind here also. Whatever is found here is labeled as my senses, my pranas, my mind, my intellect. However, upon closer examination, no such sound as I am the intellect is ever heard. That I parades around as the owner here in the subtle body also, but is nowhere to be found. Thus, according to the same reasoning used previously, that there can be nothing which I can call mine, where I am not present. The subtle body, nor any of its collective members, the senses, pranas, the mind, or the intellect, can be me. There is an objection that can be raised to this logic of where I am not. There can be nothing which I can call my own. For example, King George V is not present in Shalapur. Does it then follow that Shalapur is not under his ownership? The answer to this objection is thus. At least there is an individual who is called George V, and even if he is living elsewhere, he can have ownership in Shalapur even though he is presently not there. However, this I is a non-entity, and like Mr. Gamaji Ganesh from the example earlier, the proliferation of its arrogance and ignorance has remained unexamined, and this I is claiming authority here in the subtle body as well, when the I cannot be traced. How can there be anything there that can be claimed as mine, to be sustained by the subtle body? The subtle body is like a subtle silk bundle, even though it is more difficult to untie the subtle silk knot with thought that it was with the gross body. It is still necessary for the aspirant to put forth the effort to untie it. Once the bundle is untied and left open for thorough examination, the subtle body is automatically renounced. It is important to recognize that the subtle body is itself the seed of seed of birth and death, which is of the nature of desire. If that seed is roasted just once in the fire of knowledge, it may appear unchanged, but even if it were to be sown, there is no hope of its sprouting. A doubt may arise here that if both the gross and subtle bodies are renounced, and the attitude of pride such as I and mine also disappears, it is not possible that the actions of the body may either come to a halt, or might not be executed efficiently. The doubt may be removed thus. Suppose someone keeps a thing in a locker because he is under the impression that it is made of gold. However, at some point he finds out that instead of gold, it is really made of brass. With that recognition, he can choose to either leave it in its locker or remove it and keep it outside. His attention to it will either vanish or become greatly diminished, and thus this is a fact. In the same way, if the pride of a possession of the body as mine is ignored, nothing of value will be lost. Saint Tukaram said, "Let the body live or die. I have complete faith in my self-nature." If an aspirant reaches this level of conviction, the attitude arises when one experiences the bliss of Brahmananda. Who cares for the body? When this attitude arises, it is truly praiseworthy. A dog once bit off a piece of flesh from Saint Kabir's calf muscle. Saint Kabir simply said, "Either the dog knows or the flesh knows. Anything is possible." What could have been the feeling of the people around upon hearing this from Saint Kabir, who was a great devotee? The aspirant can easily see the degree of renunciation that Saint Kabir had reached. He fully understood that it was the flesh that was affected and not his true nature. Although this understanding that the self remains unaffected was experienced by Saint Kabir and also by Saint Tukaram when he lost his whole household, the aspirant might not get the same sense of unshaken ecstasy within oneself in the beginning when one initially undertakes the search for the I. If by God's grace such bliss does overwhelm you, you might say, "What are all these worldly possessions worth after all?" And you will never feel the need to ask such pointless questions as, "Will my house be run properly?" At that point, you will have developed such an indifferent attitude that you will say, "Let whatever is to happen, happen, and let whatever has to go, go." However, if the aspirant understands intellectually, which is easier than experiencing the self, he raises the question after the knowledge of the self is attained, and the possessive pride of the body and the mind is left behind, can one's worldly duties still be performed? To counsel him, the Sadguru answers, "Dear one, of course, even after realizing the utter uselessness of the body and mind, one can establish a household and have children without bringing in the pride of the body and the mind. In fact, these things can be looked after very well. All of the relevant duties one did earlier can still be diligently performed." How is this possible, you may ask? Understand by this example. Look at the behavior of the nurse of a motherless infant. She nurses the child, carries it around, consoles it if he cries, and nurses it back to health if he gets sick, just as she would if she were the child's actual mother. If she likes the child, she even kisses it lovingly. While doing all of this work, she does not even have the feeling that the child is her own, in spite of all that she does for the child. If the father of the child dismisses her, she at once picks up her things and gets out of the house. At this time of quitting her position, she is neither happy if the child was to put on weight, nor sad if the child were to die. The reason for this attitude is that she does not have a sense of mind regarding the child. However, it cannot be said that she has not performed her duty properly due to the absence of this sense of mind. Let us look at another example. Take the case of a trustee who manages a miner's estate worth many millions of rupees. His lack of the sense of mind does not hinder him in his duty, and he has been managing the estate of the miner very efficiently. If the duty is not discharged properly, the trustee is liable, and will surely suffer the consequences. The trustee does not have the feeling that the estate is mine, and accordingly is not affected if the estate increases in value, or even if it is decided in a legal suit that the estate does not really even belong to the miner. His duty is to look after the estate carefully as long as it is under his management. In short, in order for one's duties to be performed properly, it is not necessary that one must have the sense of I or mine whilst performing them. In exactly the same way, the gross and the subtle bodies form a bundle that is rooted in the 5 elements and is given as a keepsake, which is entrusted to the human being. As a trustee, you must look after the bundle in the best possible way. If you neglect this responsibility, you will surely suffer consequences in the form of loss of health of both body and mind. If the trustee manages the miner's estate efficiently, and the nurse looks after the child very well, they are awarded their salaries in return. Likewise, if you look after your body and mind well, and keep them in a healthy condition, you also get a return, in a form of joy. A healthy body is definitely useful in the search for the ultimate truth. All of this carrying out of one's responsibilities has to be achieved without the sense of mind. With this attitude, even if the body becomes fat or thin, or lives or dies, there is no elation or lament. If a trustee of a miner's estate is led astray by a sense of mind, and claims ownership and embezzles from the estate, he will be jailed. In the case of spiritual practice, The identification with the body means forgetting the self, or killing the self. The hope of liberation recedes for the one who is bound by the idea of being a body, even though in truth he is only nothing but the self. From the above discussion, it can be understood that the usual obligations and actions of the body and mind should be fulfilled in a proper manner, and that it is not necessary to establish a sense of ownership or a concept of mine in relation to them. The obligations of the trustee and the nurse while carrying out their responsibilities do not require them to have any sense of possession, and their duties are performed quite normally. In the same manner, the duties of a human being can be performed without entertaining the sense of possession, or any concept of mine in relation to the physical or subtle bodies. Okay, I'm going to stop here for today, and I'll post another video shortly, probably. But yeah, that's it for here today. I think that's it. For Master of Self-Realization by Shri Sadguru Siddharameshwar Maharaj. Thank you, everyone.